Consideration question 3. What have you learnt from your audience feedback? We have collected a range of feedback from different people throughout the whole of our production. After each rough cut, we got both positive and negative feedback from our trailer, magazine and poster. After attempting to use Final Cut to edit our footage for the first rough cut, we decided as a group that what we had for our trailer was poor and would need to be refilmed. Our feedback also helped us to come to that decision, as although we were able to add in some special effects, such as slow motion and adding titles, all of our footage was incredibly dark due to the lighting within our location and the time of day that we were filming outside. This audience feedback showed us that the trailer wouldn't attract people into watching our soap opera, as they wouldn't have been able to see what was going on within the trailer. For the new footage, we used a different location and a different time of day to film, which worked out to be a lot better. For our first rough cut, we decided to edit on iMovie instead of Final Cut, as all of the members in our group knew how to use it and it would be a lot quicker. Our first rough cut consisted of all the footage that we wanted in our trailer, in an order that we thought looked okay, but we knew that at some point we would have to change it. Our positive feedback told us that the ending worked really well, that we had a really good variety of shots and the props were realistic and worked really well with our settings. We were also told that the lighting was considered very well, which is what we wanted as we didn't want to face the same problems as we did last time. We were also given some improvements that we should make. For instance, we were told that the beginning looked too short and that we should add in an establishing exterior shot to show our location that we filmed in. Finally, that there was no voiceovers or soap name, which didn't conform with the soap opera trailer conventions. After we were given all of our feedback for our first rough cut, we decided to move on to the second rough cut, where we would take into consideration all of the improvements that our audience gave to us. After we completed our second rough cut, we then decided to get more audience feedback. The positives that were given to us were that the music that we had used goes really well with the piece. An improvement that we should take into consideration was that there were certain areas that were very dark. For our third rough cut, we would take into consideration this improvement and try to make our footage a bit lighter. For our third rough cut, we changed around some of our footage. We then decided to get more audience feedback to see what else we could improve on in order to make our final cut. We were given a number of positive feedbacks from our audience. Some of these included the fact that our footage shows the character personalities really well, and that we have a lot of footage that the audience can see. As well as this, we were told that the length of the trailer was really good. Although we were given positive feedback, we were also given improvements as well. The audience told us that there was no music on the trailer. As well as this, the audience told us that the footage that we had seemed a bit muddled up, and that the audience could get confused about what is happening. We were also told that the titles need to be a bit clearer at the end of the trailer, and that the font can be seen as a bit boring. Although we won't be making any changes to our final cut, we decided to get some audience feedback. The positive feedback consisted of our audience liking the panning across of the characters at the end of the piece, the fact that the bar shots are in the piece, and the good use of actors and the acting showing their personalities. They also said that music goes really well with the piece, and they like the new pieces of footage that have been added since our third rough cut. Like I've said, we won't be making any more improvements to this cut, but our audience did give us a couple of improvements. One, that the footage can be dark at times, and two, that one of the scenes can be seen as being quite long, for example, our snooker table piece. By doing 3 rough cuts, we were able to get a lot of audience feedback. This feedback tells us what our audience want, and therefore gives us a better product. For our poster, we decided to do 3 drafts, our first, second and final draft. Once we had finished our first draft poster, we decided to get audience feedback of both positive and negative comments. The positives that we received were that the font was really nice and eye-catching, that the catchphrase that we used was really good, and the theme of the poster was good, and the fact that it was like being in a wine bar. However, we did receive a negative comment of the fact that our poster seems quite dark, and the only colour that's really used is brown. Therefore, we should change that in our second draft poster. We took those pieces of negative feedback into consideration, and then moved on to our second draft poster. The positive feedback that we received for this was that the layout was really good, and that the titles that were on the poster are really clear. The improvements that we were given for this poster were that the border that was used was a bit plain, and the font for the tagline should be changed as you can't really read it. From these improvements, we then moved on to our final poster. Although we won't be changing anything on this poster as it is our final product, we have decided to gain feedback to see what other people think outside the members of our own group. This then gives us an idea of what we should do to change it if we did decide to do it again. The positives that we were given were that the audience really liked the channel logo that the soap will be shown on. They said that it looks really professional and they love the picture that's been used for the poster itself. You are able to see all the characters and their personalities. We were really happy that we were only given a couple of improvements that we would have to make if we did the poster again. The fact that the font that has been used could be a bit clearer, and that there should be something else on it that could be really eye-catching. Overall, by getting audience feedback for each of our posters, we knew exactly what our audience wanted. This meant that when we got to our final poster, we knew it would be perfect for our target audience. We have collected a large variety of feedback on both positive and negative aspects on our first draft magazine cover. Some of the positives were the pictures that we have used were really good and give a lot of detail into the personalities and storylines of the characters. We've also got a very good tagline according to a lot of our audience. A few negative points were that there was a lot of white space that should be filled, and there should be a more consistent colour scheme. Our audience also pointed out that there isn't a price on our magazine cover, and the font may be easy to read, but it could be more creative. We took both the positive and negative aspects into consideration to do our final magazine cover. Once the final magazine cover was completed, we also took positive and negative feedback. The positive feedback was that the price was in 2 places, it's overall really bright, colourful, and there was good use of images. However, there are negative points. The font could be a bit bolder, and then there are quite a few white gaps. With the white gaps, it's quite hard to fill them, as you can only have so much content on the magazine cover. Overall, the audience feedback for our magazines has been extremely helpful in us actually completing the overall product. The audience have been able to give us a different point of view to what we have on our own magazine products. As well as this, by asking a variety of different people, we get a variety of different opinions as well, which means our product could be original to any other product that could be made.